In this video, we're going to go over the bench and bed platform system. We're going to show you how the benches were built around the truck and how the bed platform system works. I do recommend you print off the spreadsheet so that when I'm zooming in on the benches and the bed platform, you can see exactly how we built the system. So, without further ado, let's dive right in. Right now, you're looking at the bench platform in travel mode. Call this the bench mode, travel mode, and you can see here all 5 wooden pieces that are set up so that we can store things. Now, one thing that you'll see here is that if you're a single person or 2 small people, you can sleep in the bottom of this. So you could set this system up so that one person could sleep on this bottom platform. So you don't have to rearrange anything. So that is an option with this system. Now, because I have a wife and a dog, we need to change the bed platform around. So we need to change these boards. However, before I do that, let me show you some things here. One thing you're going to want to make sure of is that you secure the wooden platforms or the wooden boards. So what I did here is I used a joiner piece and I just unlock the wood, so that enables this to slide out easily. There's one more thing that I do, so let's go over here. You can see here that there's a little wedge in there in between the clamp and the board. That little wedge helps secure the middle piece. I can move those wedges wherever I want. I also have used shims before, so let me show you what that looks like. Here you can see how I have a shim with a wedge piece. Now you can use multiple shims, you can do anything you want, styrofoam or whatever. But this makes sure that the boards are in place and they don't move going down the highway. So once again, the shims, wedges, and the 2-piece joiner plates that you can easily turn to secure the boards or turn to remove the boards. 2 more things to make sure that the boards don't move in transit or while you're driving. These rubber foam pieces are amazing. So you can buy these in different sizes, and you can see here how I put these in place, and it helps secure the boards so they're not moving around. The nice thing is I can take this piece, I can move it over here. So if you want a flatter platform, mentioned that earlier talking about sleeping, I'd probably move this over here to give you a flatter sleeping area. Something else, you can take some of these foam strips and put it in behind the boards. I have a piece in the middle. It's really hard to see, but I have a piece on the middle just to secure the boards in place even more. The 5 pieces of wood that you're looking at are all finished in mineral oil. There's about 4 coats on them. All of the boards are pine. They all are 3/4 inches thick, and the ones on top are 12 inches wide. The one on the cab, near the cab, that one there is 57 inches long. The ones on the side are 58 inches long. The ones on the floor, on the bed, bottom of the bed, are 16 inches wide and 58 inches long. You can see here how the boards fit nicely under the clamps. There's really not much room. The boards had to be perfect because they have to fit lengthwise and they have to fit widthwise when I make the bed platform. So it's really a mathematical equation based off of your truck bed. Before I dive into the bench build, the extruded aluminum, I wanted to show you the bed platform once it's set up once again. I know I showed this in the tour video, but I wanted to show or zoom in here on the wedge slash shim system. You can see here I'm pulling on this board and it's not moving. So this works. When we sleep, we really only need a wedge or shim on each side, and then that secures all of the boards in place, at least enough to make a nice solid bed platform. This is what the back of the bed looks like without the wood platforms in the truck. You can see here that the benches just sit up against the side. What I did is I used an eyelet here so that this is spaced properly away from the side of the truck. I'm going to show you here in a minute how I use those eyelets up near the cab with turnbuckles to secure the benches. But while we're here, let's take a look at how we built the end. You can see here that we used these corner plates. You can see here how we used the panel gaskets. And you can see here how we use the tint on the plexiglass. The glass is 0.1 inches thick. It's one of the thinnest plexiglass pieces that you can buy. So you have two choices. You can either A, put panel gaskets on each side to secure it, or you can run some kind of spline. I had some extra spline. The rubber stuff that they use for screens, and I ran this spline on the other side instead of another panel gasket. Either way will work. You can see here that the plexiglass, the only other place that we have plexiglass is on the sides, and that's to cover the wheel well. We tinted those as well. And if you see, you have quite a bit of storage. Here's what the bottom looks like without any rubber mat. We used a rubber mat, yoga mat type material on all four corners so that our boxes don't slide around much. Next, we're going to look how we secure the benches in the truck so that they don't move around. Before jumping to the back, I want to show you something that's really important. You can see here how this bottom rail, and it runs the whole length of the truck, is sitting on one of these raised parts of the bed. And I purposely did that. When I measured this box, I wanted the width to make sure that this rail, this bottom rail, rested on this here raised part of the bed. My other option was to go this far. My wife, being the wise one, said I would like to, or we should have more room in the middle here, so we made the boxes smaller. But I purposely made it so it sat nicely on this raised part of the bed the whole way down the truck, and that seems to make it more secure. We're now going to take a look at how we secure the benches to the bed. You can see here how we're using turnbuckles and 2-inch eyelets. The 2-inch eyelet coming down from the 1x3 attaches to the back side with another 2-inch eyelet. There's another turnbuckle underneath the bed rail that actually attaches to a hole in the bed rail, so I don't need an eyelet there. However, I do have an eyelet on the back side of the bench. Those two turnbuckles hold these in place nicely. You can see here how I needed a little bit more length to the bench. So what I did was I used an upside down gusset. So there's a 4-hole gusset that I put on upside down. Everything's the same on the other side. There's a 4-hole gusset to make the bench longer, to make it sit flush or even up against the bed. And then you have the turnbuckles attached to eyelets and attached underneath. There is an eyelet near the tailgate. However, I don't need to use it because when the boards are in, it makes the system very tight, very secure. Benches don't move at all. And 99% of the time we have the boards in, so it works quite well. The eyelet on here back here near the tailgate does allow the bench not to move too close to the wall, too close to the bed. So that's how we secure the benches to the truck. I was going to take one of the benches out of the truck to show you how it's built, but I think it's best for you to see it in the truck. You can see the actual where everything is joined together, how it's joined together. So when you look at this thing, I think it helps when you think of one box connected to another box. So you can see here how this is a box, and that's how I built them. I built this box, and then I built this box, and I connected it with 3 joining rails, or 3 long rails that connect the boxes. Let's dive into some of the ways I built this, some of the joining brackets. You can see here how I ordered quite a few counterbores. A lot of this is connected with counterbores. You can see, if you look real close, how I actually messed up a little bit with the build. Can you see here how there's no counterbores here? The counterbore is on the inside. So if I need to tighten that counterbore down, I need to take this whole bench out. Now let me show you how it should be done. On this side, you can see how the counterbore is on the inside. Now, I only went with a single counterbore. So these 2 here I can actually get to if I need to tighten them down or adjust them. These are single. You can see here how I used a double. This double is really strong. You can build the whole thing with the double. I don't think you need to. Ours is pretty strong with singles, or the boxes being built with single counterbores. I put the doubles here because this rail is the longest rail in the entire build. So you can see it's just a box built with counterbores and 2 whole brackets that are used on the inside. So you can take a look at the spreadsheet, see my measurements. You can see that this is the smaller of the 2 boxes. This is the larger of the 2 boxes. But the whole thing is held together with counterbores, single counterbores for the boxes, double counterbores for the rails that go down, and then inside 2 whole corner brackets. This here, this piece, is to just give it some strength. And then this piece also gives it strength. But this piece also allows you to break up the plexiglass, so you don't have one huge piece of plexiglass to buy. I switched the camera over to hyperview so you can see the entire bench inside the truck from the side. So you can see, if you're looking closely, how important your measurements are, because you have to measure around that wheel well. It's very important that your measurements are perfect so that they're not sitting at an angle in the bed of your truck. The benches have quite a few end caps on them. You don't have to put these in, but I think it makes a much nicer look. I would order some extra. If you can see here, this one's actually damaged a little bit. So you'll want some extra one of those, and it just gives it a nice, clean, finished look. When using the plexiglass with counterbores, you can see here with the double counterbore, I had to notch those out. And it's impossible to show you because the notch actually sits down in the grooves. However, if you go to 8020.net, they'll show you that if you use counterbores, you will have to notch the four corners out of the plexiglass. If you use the 90-degree external plates and you don't use the counterbores, like we did on the external part of the topper and the ends of these benches, then you don't have to notch your plexiglass. I spent a lot of time zooming in on parts of the boxes so that you can understand the build instead of pulling the boxes out or the benches out and showing you them outside the truck. I thought it'd be best to show you inside the truck so you can see how the build wraps around how your truck is designed. So how the build actually wraps around the wheel wells, how we're hiding the wheel wells, how when you take off the boards you can throw a ton of stuff in there and then put the boards on top and cover it all up. You don't necessarily need plexiglass on the top. You don't necessarily need doors. We decided not to use doors because we use just some bins. So, but the build is up to you. And this is probably the most popular build that I saw on YouTube when people were building them out of wood. But there are so many advantages to 8020. I'm going to wrap the bench build up. I want to highlight a few things. This one's pretty obvious, but you can see here that there's no rail in the back. You don't need the rail in the back on the bottom because of the wheel well that we're trying to cover up. The long rails that connect the boxes have a double anchor counterbore to give it strength. The other boxes only use single anchor counterbores, and you want to keep them facing you so that you can adjust them. The end of the benches have the 90-degree plates. Gives it a pretty cool aesthetic look, industrial look. The boxes have to be measured around the wheel well, so it's going to, the size of the boxes depends on your truck bed. You do not want to make this too big. If you make it too tall, then you can't get the 3/4 inch pieces of wood underneath the clamps. Very, very important. You also want the benches to sit on the tops of the grooves in your truck bed. You want to develop some type of system where they're secure. The turnbuckles work great. You may even want to use a turnbuckle near the tailgate. The middle support here is needed. It gives it more rigidness. And other than that, the build is up to you. You can design it the way you want. This is just how I did it. In conclusion, the bench system that we have in here is probably one of the more popular ones because you can lay the boards across. One thing I do recommend though is to make sure that your benches are wide enough so that when you do put the boards across, you don't have too much give in the middle or too much sag. So, alright, well this is our build. Showed you how the boards move around. I showed you how everything is fastened together. I kept the benches in the truck because I wanted to show you how they fit in the truck. So you saw all the ways that we connected it. Whether or not that was the 2-hole brackets, the double anchor counterbores for the long rails, the single anchor counterbores, and these end plates here, these 90-degree plates. Plexiglass, we use tint so that you can't see inside, you can't see that ugly wheel well. We use the panel gasket so that it doesn't rattle around. We use turnbuckles and we use eyelets to secure it to the bed. So there are so many advantages of using 8020, just so many. It's strong, it's light, and it's waterproof. Those are really the reasons why we chose to build the benches this way, and we're pretty happy with it. So thanks for watching.